Hi everyone, Courtney, Marley, and I would like to warmly welcome you to this parent training video. Feel free to pause the video at any time in order to reference the materials we have supplied within the accompanying PowerPoint. Today we will discuss verbal manding training for tangibles for children who have limited speech. Manding means requesting or asking for something you want, and tangibles means objects that you're asking for. It is important to note that the literature often sorts these requesting objects into two categories: edibles, which are things that you eat, and non-edible tangibles, which are non-edible objects such as trucks, dolls, or blankets. For the purpose of the video, we will use an umbrella term of tangibles. Teaching manding behavior is essential for our learners because it is appropriate to allow them to communicate to gain access to the things they want, rather than resorting to behaviors such as tantruming or self-injury. Courtney will now discuss the research that supports the use of verbal mand training for tangibles. So there is a plethora of research on manding and mand training out there, and the articles that I'm going to review are just a few of the many techniques that can be used to teach manding. And these articles focus on teaching manding to individuals who have the ability to emit vocal verbal language. A few procedures from different articles that were done. One important thing to note is that a lot of the research, they use preference assessment before starting mand training, and that is important to identify preferred items and make sure that you're using items that could potentially be reinforcing to the participant, so they will be motivated to ask for it. Basically, you can do something that is called incidental teaching, and you use a lot of natural environment situations. Use those preferred items to train on the mand, so that you're prompting something like, "What do you want?" And if they don't respond, then you are prompting them to say the name of the item. And then as soon as they do, or whatever the approximation for them is, then you give them access to the item for a brief amount of time. Another procedure that was used involves prompting and reinforcement, which was basically what I just discussed, and also shaping and stimulus fading. So you're kind of shaping them up to say the full word, like cookie. You start maybe by having them say just the cook sound, or the first part of the word. And also using prompt fading. So once you start using those prompts, then you want to be sure to fade them out so that they don't become reliant on your prompts to mand for an item or activity or whatever it is. So those are some of the basic procedures that were used in the research, and now I'm going to turn it over to Marley to talk about what she's going to discuss.
Thank you, Courtney. I will be discussing who and what these strategies are appropriate for. Mand training is appropriate for a variety of individuals. However, for the scope of the presentation, we'll be discussing how to implement these procedures with a population of children who are vocal, as both Courtney and Jennifer mentioned, and are able to emit at least one-word responses. Many of these strategies can be used with other children who may not meet this requirement. However, these strategies were implemented with learners who already have some words in their repertoire, and although they may be appropriate for learners who are also learning new words and can generate close word approximations, these strategies are primarily for those who can emit one-word responses. Additionally, mand training is an appropriate intervention to utilize in order to increase your child's ability to Access or meet their needs through functional methods. Instead of doing so by exhibiting potentially challenging behaviors such as crying, tantruming, or screaming, man training procedures are appropriate to increase a number of mans to include preferred tangibles, activities, and information. However, in this presentation, we will primarily discussing how to access tangibles. These strategies are also appropriate for words that function under other conditions. So, for example, if your child knows the word cookie and say the word cookie, however, has never independently used it as a request or a command, the word can be taught to be used as a command. And lastly, this presentation will focus on strategies designed to fit the routine of your natural environment, as Courtney mentioned, and it's beneficial in the sense that it can be practiced multiple times a day by multiple elders, including siblings and babysitters. This just provides more practice for the child and gives them more opportunities to admit that response. Now we'll go on to Courtney, who will be discussing how to implement these procedures.
Okay, so the steps for implementation, or the how-to, were taken from one of the articles that I discussed earlier, Kodak and Clements in 2009. So first, of course, you want to choose an item that the child seems to enjoy. You can do this by doing a pair choice preference assessment. And these can be items, they can be edibles, toys, or activities like a cookie or a puzzle or the swing. And again, it's important to limit access to these items that you're going to use so that the motivation to ask for them will be present when you are doing the training. And in the article, they limited access to the items for at least 5 minutes before they started the man training. And then to begin the man training, you would deliver the prompt, something like, "What do you want?" While holding the item out of reach. And if there is no reply within 5 seconds of delivering that prompt, then you can deliver an echoic prompt like, say, "cookie." And as soon as the correct response is emitted, you can allow the child to have access to that item for about 10 seconds. And then you can repeat the procedure as needed. The goal is to have the presence of the item evoke the command from the child spontaneously without any prompting. So you would want to continue to fade back your prompts, maybe by saying, like I mentioned earlier, just cook instead of cookie, and fade that back to just the sound. And yes, so you just repeat those procedures, and you can use that with any preferred item that you want to train on. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jen.
So in order to show modeling of the strategy, we thought we would include a video, a YouTube video called Teaching Requesting Early Man Training, which was developed by the Watson Institute. You can pause this video now or to take a look or view it when we're finished. Just a note beforehand. The video talks about using a reinforcer survey that can be completed by staff or family. A reinforcer survey is a list of types of reinforcers that you can use to determine what your child will be motivated to gain access to during the verbal man training. If they're not motivated, they won't attempt for the object. So we talk a little bit more about that in the PowerPoint, which you can check it out. On the PowerPoint following the one that presents the Teaching Requesting Early Man's Training, on the next slide, we included a sample reinforcer survey that you can use, as well as extra tips on how to determine which tangibles you can use as reinforcers to increase your child's manding behavior. You can also talk to your child's behavior analyst. Marley will now discuss how you can determine whether or not the verbal man's training intervention is working for your child.
Thank you, Jen. After implementing the strategies, you will wonder how to determine if the interventions have been successful for your child. A sign of success includes your child's ability to man independently and spontaneously for the items at a criterion set by your behavior analyst, especially if the item's not present. That is the progress you'd like to see. Depending on the child's goal, this can vary. You may be working on a goal of a word approximation, such as Courtney mentioned, by having the child say "k" instead of "cookie," and later the goal could change to the actual word. Another sign of success is indicated by a generalization of mans, or to untaught elders, or a generalization of untaught mans. For example, if the child has been taught to man for cookies, but then starts manding for milk without being trained, that is a great sign of progress, and it's the kind of progress you'd like to see. Also, if you find that your child is only manding for a tangible some of the time, although that is definitely progress, it's important to understand some factors that could be contributing to those diminished opportunities for your child to mand spontaneously and continuously. A factor to consider is the child's vocal skill level. For example, if the child's approximations are too challenging or too difficult to understand, it will be hard for the trainer to know what the child is asking for, and therefore can diminish the child's motivation to ask or mand for the item in the future. Therefore, it's important to address and discuss those concerns with your behavior analyst as to what will be accepted as a mand, depending on the child's skill level. And lastly, the behavior analyst will provide or may provide some data collection assignments for you to annotate the frequency of the manding from your child and the prompt level that you use on a daily basis, and an upward trend in the data, which the analyst would be happy to show you once the graph is completed, and to demonstrate the child's progress will also indicate that the intervention is working. And now we'll be moving on to Jen, and she will discuss the overview of our clinic-wide plan.
Okay, so the clinic-wide implementation plan was made to address the needs of ABA Together LLC, an ABA clinic, which specializes in clients who have limited speech. A large influx of clients have entered who have exhibited inappropriate behavior issues related to gaining objects, according to their FBAs conducted by their BCBAs. In addition, a number of parents have inquired about training for preventing their children from tantruming at each time they want items. Thus, the staff at ABA Together LLC plans for a leadership team to made up of 2 BCBAs, 1 speech-language pathologist, 4 behavior technicians, and 2 part-time graduate student interns. Once the plan is made and materials are developed, the behavior technician and interns will take part in weekly training sessions every Wednesday, and a parent training session will be held once a week. In addition, staff who need assistance in mand training for tangibles will also undergo training. Now it's time for our final tips. Within this training video of manding for tangibles, we have reviewed a number of things. Be sure to download a copy of the ABA guideline, which summarizes the information presented today, found in the accompanying PowerPoint presentation. We hope you have found this information helpful and encourage you to contact your child's BCBA for any other questions. We will leave you with the following video clip. After viewing, please break into groups of 2 and discuss the inappropriate behavior that was exhibited by the child in the video, how the mother acted inappropriately, and how mand training could be implemented here. Good luck!